What if I told you that right now, somewhere in rural Pennsylvania, a man with no college degree, no electrician's license, and no monthly power bill is running an entire working property on a setup he bought for less than the cost of a decent pair of boots? And what if I told you the reason you've never heard about this isn't because it doesn't work? It's because it works too well for the wrong people's business models? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear in the next 10 minutes is going to make you look at that electricity bill sitting on your counter in a completely different way. And once you see it, really see it, you won't be able to unsee it. If you're new here, welcome to Secret Verse, the channel where we dig up the practical knowledge that somehow got buried while everyone was busy looking the other way. Hit that subscribe button right now, because the video I'm dropping next week goes even deeper into this rabbit hole, and you do not want to miss it. Like this video if you've ever felt like the system was designed to keep you paying no matter what you do. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll have an opinion. Let's go back about 4 years. I'm standing in a farm workshop in a county where most people don't use electricity at all, at least not the way you and I do. There's no meter on the wall. There's no monthly bill taped to the refrigerator. There's no 25-year financing agreement in a folder somewhere. There's a panel leaning against a wall, a battery the size of a camping cooler, a wire running to a machine that's been working every single day for over a decade. That's the whole thing. The man who built it did it on a Saturday, without a contractor, without a permit, without calling anyone. I grew up being told that solar energy meant panels on a roof, a company installing them, a contract you sign, and years of payments while you wait to break even. Most of us accepted that story without question because it came from every direction at once. Television ads, utility company mailers, government incentive programs, friendly salesmen at home shows. The story was everywhere. And when a story is everywhere, most people stop asking whether it's the only story. Here's the one they never told you. Before solar became an industry, it was just a tool, a panel, a battery, a thing that needed power. You connect them, the sun does the work, and the device runs. No middleman, no markup, no meter reading, no monthly invoice. The concept is almost embarrassingly simple, which is exactly why it had to be complicated before it could be sold to you at scale. Think about how the modern rooftop solar pitch actually works. A company comes to your door or runs an ad promising energy independence. You get a quote, usually somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000. You sign a financing deal. Your panels go up. You feel good. And then the first real bill arrives and you discover that energy independence apparently still involves a utility company, a net metering agreement, and a rate structure you never fully understood when you signed the paperwork. The credits you earn on sunny summer days are worth less than the kilowatts you buy back on cold winter nights. The salesman called it energy independence. The contract calls it something else entirely. Now here's what made my jaw drop when I first encountered the alternative. Communities that have been quietly, consistently off the grid for decades didn't reinvent solar. They just refused to participate in what solar became. No grid connection, no net metering contract, no inverter that costs $8,000 and requires utility approval to even switch on. Just a panel, a battery, and the specific device that needs power. That's called a dedicated load circuit. And it is the single most powerful idea in residential energy that almost no one in the mainstream solar industry will ever voluntarily mention to you. Because there's no money in it. Not for them. Here's how it actually works, and pay attention because this is where most people have a genuine light bulb moment. No pun intended. You pick one appliance in your house that runs continuously and costs you money every single month. A chest freezer is the perfect starting point. It runs around the clock, it cycles on and off, and here's the key thing most people don't realize. A well-built chest freezer can hold its temperature for more than a day without any power at all. That makes it one of the most forgiving electrical loads in your home. It doesn't need perfectly continuous power, it just needs enough. So you buy a single solar panel, 100 watts, costs you somewhere around $70 to $80. You pick up a lithium iron phosphate battery, about 100 amp hours, around $150. A basic charge controller, $30. A small pure sine wave inverter, around $40. You lean the panel against the south-facing wall of your house. You run a wire through a vent or a window. You connect the components in sequence. You plug the freezer in, and that's it. You're done. Total cost, roughly $300. Total installation time, 1 afternoon. Permits required, 0, because you haven't touched your home's wiring or connected anything to the utility grid. The freezer is now running on its own completely independent circuit, the same way a flashlight runs on batteries. Except this flashlight runs on sunlight, and it never needs new batteries because the sun keeps charging them. But here's the part that took me a long time to fully absorb. And this is the piece of the puzzle that really separates the approach I'm describing from anything a conventional solar company will build you. The smartest version of this system doesn't use one big battery for everything. It uses one dedicated battery per load, one battery for the freezer, a separate battery for a workshop tool, another for outdoor lighting, another for a well pump. Each battery only ever serves one device, which means it's never over-discharged, never underused, never damaged by unpredictable demand spikes. A battery that lives a calm, predictable life, serving one steady load, can last 15 to 20 years. Compare that to the home battery systems being sold by major solar companies today. They're typically warranted for 10 years, and real-world failure data shows many dying well before that. The dedicated load approach isn't just cheaper to build, it's more reliable, it lasts longer. And when something does go wrong, you lose power to one device, not your entire setup. There's also something else that never gets mentioned in any solar proposal you'll receive from a licensed contractor. The angle of the panel matters, but not in the way the industry tells you. The standard American advice is to angle your panels at roughly your latitude in degrees, facing south for maximum annual output. That math optimizes for a number that looks good on a sales proposal. But there's a different optimization that matters far more for real-world energy independence, worst day performance. If you tilt your panels steeper, closer to vertical, it underperforms slightly in peak summer when you have surplus sun anyway, but it dramatically outperforms in December and January when days are short, sun is low, and your load is highest. It also sheds snow on its own, which a flat or shallow-angled panel does not. The Amish communities that have been running this way since the early 1980s figured this out through decades of winters, not through a computer model. And no salesman will ever tell you to do it because it lowers the headline annual production number they use to justify the price tag. I want to step back for a second and talk about why this matters beyond saving money on a freezer. There's a bigger picture here that has nothing to do with solar panels and everything to do with the architecture of dependency. Over the last 100 years, the American household quietly moved from generating or sourcing most of its own energy, wood, coal, kerosene, food from the land, to routing almost every single watt of energy through a meter owned by an entity you cannot negotiate with, cannot replace, and cannot hold accountable when the bill goes up. We call that progress. But progress toward what exactly? The communities that kept their independent systems running all this time didn't get left behind. They sidestepped a trap that the rest of us walked into one convenience at a time. They're not anti-technology, they're anti-dependency. Those are completely different things. And the most clarifying way I ever heard it put, by a man I spoke with while standing next to a 12-volt battery bank in a milk house on a rainy afternoon, was this. He said they don't refuse the machine. They refuse the wire that ties them to the man who owns the machine. Read that again slowly. Because once that idea lands, it changes how you look at every utility bill, every financing agreement, every service contract you've ever signed without reading page 4. The thing is, nothing about this approach is secret in the traditional sense. It's not classified, it's not patented by a corporation trying to hide it. It's just inconvenient for the companies that profit from your dependence on their infrastructure. A homeowner who powers a chest freezer independently for $300 doesn't generate revenue for a panel manufacturer, an inverter company, a solar installer, a financing firm, or a utility company collecting connection fees and net metering arbitrage for the next quarter century. That homeowner just has a freezer that runs on sunlight. That's it. There's nothing to skim. And that's exactly why the industry built a world where that option doesn't exist in any brochure or any government incentive program, any mainstream conversation about clean energy. They didn't ban it, they just made sure you never thought to ask about it. So here's what I want you to do right now. Look at your house. Find the south-facing wall. Think about which appliance in your home runs constantly, costs you the most over time, and would benefit most from having its own independent power source. For a lot of people, it's a chest freezer. For others, it's a basement dehumidifier, a garage refrigerator, a well pump, or an outdoor lighting circuit. Whatever it is, that's your starting point. That's the first piece of real energy independence, not the marketing version, the actual version. Drop your answer in the comments right now. What's the first device in your house you'd put on its own independent solar circuit? I read every single comment on this channel, and I'm building the next video around the most common answers. So your response is actually going to shape what gets covered next. If it's a well pump, chest freezer, workshop, or something else entirely, tell me below. And if this video changed how you think about your power bill, even slightly, hit that like button and share it with someone who's been thinking about going solar. Because chances are, nobody has shown them this side of the equation yet. The knowledge was always there. It was just placed outside the spotlight. The people who kept it alive didn't do it by fighting the system. They did it by quietly walking around it, one panel and one battery at a time, for 50 years. You can start doing the same thing this weekend. And 10 years from now, the freezer will still be running, quietly, independently, on sunlight, while the next round of solar sales proposals lands in your neighbor's inbox. Subscribe to Secret Verse. There's a lot more where this came from.